Everybody who's listening to this or watching this probably has a thing in their pocket which can do everything.
Yeah.
It's a phone, it's your record player, it's your calculator, it's your camera.
Yeah.
It's all that type of stuff. And you go back into my way back machine, and I had one of those TI 30s with the loop around the belt.
Yeah.
And so what I have in my pocket now, it's a telegraph.
Yes.
The text is just a telegram.
Absolutely.
It's a calculator, it's a camera, it's
Maps.
like I said, it's my record, it's my map, all that in one. Unimaginable. And yet taken for granted today. That's where we're going to be 40 years from now.
Welcome to Lightbulb Moments, a video podcast series brought to you by Mitsubishi Power. We're bringing you the brightest minds, most engaging stories, and illuminating points of view from across the energy sector. I'm Erin Bordelon, your host. Today, I have with me, once again, from last time, Dr. Vijay Swarup. He's the Senior Director of Climate Solutions and Technology for ExxonMobil. So if you missed last episode, go back and be sure to catch up, and we're going to pick up again now. Vijay, thank you for not going anywhere.
I'm still here, and I look forward to continuing the conversation.
So what part of the power generation or emissions value chain is your team really focused on right now?
So the reality is, if you look at what we're working on, they are core technologies. Okay, so let's just take the ones that you're certainly aware of. CCS. CCS can apply to the power value chain.
Yep.
Because natural gas.
Yep.
Combust. If you have CO2, you can take that CO2. That's what you're beginning to hear around with data centers.
Yeah.
How can we get data centers power at scale? Well, a good way to do it is natural gas.
Yep.
Plus CCS.
Yep.
Okay, that's scalable today. That's technology that's available today. How do you get out there and do that? Power, CCS can also apply to industrial sector. So we have these large complexes that make your chemicals, that make your fuel. Energy itself is energy intensive. So if you can take that energy and capture the CO2 off of that, well, that applies. Hydrogen is another one that's a multifaceted molecule. So hydrogen can be a process fluid. So you can use hydrogen within your refineries, within your chemical plants. Hydrogen can be used to generate power. Hydrogen can be used for a lot of things. So we're looking at technologies that have, broad applicability. And then if you think about CCS is really the back end of any process where you're creating a CO2.
Right.
CCS, the challenge with carbon capture is what's the concentration of the CO2.
Yeah.
So we're working on everything from higher concentration CO2 that have a solution set to the ultimate challenge, which is called direct air capture, which is actually taking the CO2 right out of the air, which is the lowest concentration you're going to have. And so the technologies that are going to be needed to do the high concentration versus low concentration are very different. And there are different stages of technical readiness, but we're working across the whole spectrum. So our company, from its very beginning, has been solving problems for energy at scale. And so these value chains that our low carbon solutions business is working on, by the way, our product solutions group, which is our fuels and chemicals, are also working at solutions at scale, whether it's biofuels, whether it's plastics recycling. All these things are parts of the energy value chains of the future. And what's exciting is to see these technologies advancing to where we're deploying them at scales that matter. So whether it's advanced recycling, whether it's the hydrogen project we're progressing in Baytown, which would be the largest low carbon hydrogen project that's been built, to the carbon capture network, which we have, which is the largest end-to-end carbon capture and sequestration offering that's out there. We're already talking at scales that we're not being able to talk about 10 years ago.
Right.
Recognizing that we're still nowhere near the scale that we need to go to. The road is being paved.
Yeah.
And that's what's exciting. And you can begin to see it.
Yeah.
And again, if you wake up on Tuesday, you can't see it.
Right.
Right. But if you kind of said, where was I 10 years ago? And that, look, the fortune of being in the R&D organization for 10 years and watching these programs go from test tubes to now getting ready to go to scale is a privilege that I would have never dreamed that I would have been part of when I started. And so that excitement that every day you're solving part of the problem, and that constant chasing and that optimism that it is solvable. I don't know how to solve it today, but I know it can be solved. And then the other thing is we're a company of 60,000 people, 20,000 engineers and scientists. The internal collaboration is phenomenal.
Tremendous, yeah.
It's tremendous. Just walking around the hallways and seeing not just the folks from my generation, but the folks we're bringing in today. And the skill sets they're bringing today, which are nowhere near the skills I have. Their ability to do computations at speeds that I can't imagine. Quite frankly, their ability to communicate across the multiple platforms. I'm happy when the Zoom thing works. Okay. These guys are doing all sorts of things, right? So I watch the students, and look, another thing that we get to do, which I take great enjoyment in, is engaging with universities.
Yeah.
And the thing about universities is they're always 18 to 22 years old.
Yeah.
Every time I go, I'm older.
Yeah.
But they're still 18 to 22. And so you can watch that evolution.
Yeah.
And that curiosity. And the more we can do these types of conversations and inspire, we need them. This problem needs the best engineers, the best scientists, the best communicators to really help drive this forward. So the more we can go out to universities and say, look, energy needs you. Pick whatever part of energy you want to be part of, because like we just said, energy covers everything. But we need to get you, on part of this team, because that's what's going to that's going to make the difference, right? We're an innovative. We know how to innovate. We know how to collaborate.
Yeah.
Now we got to take innovation and collaboration equals acceleration, because we want to go faster. And if we can bring those together, I think we're going to be okay.
So when you go to these universities and you speak to this infinite pool of 18 to 22-year-olds, how do you, like we said, you can't go get a degree in energy. So how do you describe what the industry is, what it looks like, what it feels like to these folks?
Well, I go back to, do you want to solve a problem?
Yeah.
Do you like solving problems? Do you like solving incredibly complicated problems? Do you like working with people? Do you like feeling like you made a difference?
Yeah.
These are all elements of energy. And so the interdisciplinary nature of energy, I mean, look, we see universities beginning to have interdisciplinary programs in energy. This is a very, very good thing.
Yes.
And so the more we see that, the better it is. But I always go back and look, whether it's universities or even going back to grade school, how do you inspire somebody to be excited about math? How do you inspire somebody to be excited? I was lucky. My father was an engineer. He instilled math in me at a very, very young age. The whole, how do numbers work and why do numbers work? And that whole concept of infinity actually goes back to, I don't know, it's probably 6, 7 years old. And this whole thing that, wait a minute, never done counting?
Yeah.
Like count to 100. Okay, now count to 100. No, I'm done. I got to 100. No, now you got to get. And so how do you motivate? It comes back to that leadership, the communication, the investing the time. Storytelling is critically important. This is what your podcast is doing. It's about storytelling. And the more we can get all this connected.
Yeah.
So whether we're talking to a fourth grader, a senior, or a fourth-year graduate student, a 4-year employee, or a 40-year employee, the root is the same. What problem are you solving? Do you want to solve a problem? Do you want to solve problems that really matter? And that to me is the advertisement for why you want to get into energy. And you're never done.
Yeah.
You're just never done. I'm telling you, the way we're doing it today, it's going to be different 40 years ago, 40 years from now. 40 years ago is different. 140 years ago is different. This thing never ends.
Right.
People are always going to need energy. People are always going to want more energy. Quality of life is only going to improve.
Yeah.
How do we do this?
And that's, I think, the thing that has surprised me most about being in the energy sector is just how foundationally optimistic it is.
Right.
Right. And you hear like, well, there's always a problem to solve, but that's never a bad thing.
Right.
Right. It's always, well, we can just do better.
Right.
We can do more. We can do it faster. And why not?
We are a company of leaders. We've had some tremendous leaders. We're an industry of leaders. And I think that's the leadership challenge that's constantly given to the scientists. It's given to the commercial people. It's given to the logistics people. It's given to the office workers. Everybody working together to go faster.
Yeah.
To solve this problem. And you got some people that are spending their entire time just defining the problem. Right? So people are working in different time horizons, and you need to work on those different time horizons. So again, this thing is so complicated. and so fascinating. And again, complication plus fascination equals excitement to me. And so this is an incredibly exciting time to be in this industry as we go through this transition.
So you've talked about, success being a byproduct of failure and experimentation. Right. And I feel like we readily accept that in science. So why do we struggle to accept that in energy and technology?
Well, I think because the successes we've had have been taken for granted. Because the failures are behind the scenes.
Quickly forgotten. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I mean, all you need is one success and everybody says, okay, well, let's go there. So I think it comes back to what we're trying to do here today, which is communicate all that went into being able to do what we're doing today. And I think that's really important, particularly when you're leading a research organization, because you've got to make sure that the people that are getting frustrated because it's not working understand that we actually want you to take that frustration and turn it into a positive energy, because this problem needs to be solved. So just keep going at it, keep going at it. What we're trying to do is say, we understand the problem.
Yep.
Okay. This is how we're defining the problem. You don't need to worry about the details. We're on it. We get it. We know what the problem is and we're working in. When we have a solution, trust us. We're going to give it to you. Yep. Okay. And you don't need to know what it took to get there. You just need to know that, you know what? It worked.
Yeah.
And I have my energy and I've lowered my emissions. Everything's fine. But I need a technology set to do that. And we just don't have the technology set to do that today.
So, however, what's one underrated solution or technology in your point of view? What do you have your eye on?
I think you need to have a portfolio. I think it has to be a portfolio based on your capabilities. And I think we always keep coming back to, is what we're working on solving the what I call the and equation. So if there's a problem, it is the and equation. How do we keep doing what we're doing today and build the roadmap, build the pathway for the future? And as long as that's your rubric, you're going through that strike zone, if you will, then I think you're good. I think everything else either gets too complicated to explain, or there's 49 reasons why it's not a good idea. There's only, but I look for that one reason why it is a good idea.
Yeah.
I like to connect the yeses, not connect the nos. And as long as we're moving towards that problem statement, I think we're there. I think as a company, we're working on things that we're good at. And so I've watched the progress we've made. I mean, look, I'm watching our low carbon solution business go from a concept to what it is today, looking at the capital commitment that our company has made to the low carbon solution business with, in the tens of billions of dollars. Those are pretty exciting. That means there's a there. That means there's something happening there. You look at that we're deploying CCS, we're progressing a hydrogen project, we're progressing lithium, we're doing these types of things. And it just reminds me of what this company does really well, which is know what we're good at, understand how to get all the components together, collaborate where needed. So there's a lot of collaboration in these projects. There's a lot of collaboration went into the research, but it's always been about how do we get to scale and how do we get more energy, lower emissions. And so I just watch that and say, I like it. I like the portfolio we have. It fits with our capabilities. But I think as long as we continue there, I think it's going to be just fine.
Perfect. What is a misconception that you would like to correct, or, something in your corner of energy sector that you find that you recurringly have to?
I think that it's solvable today. Those are two different concepts. Is it solvable? Yes. Is it solvable today? No. Don't mix those two up.
Gotcha.
Okay? So there's a lot of folks out there that say, well, you just do it today. Well, you really can't. Okay. For a number of reasons, right? I don't think the technology is mature enough in certain areas. I think we need to get the cost down. Okay. We got to get the scale up. There are some just fundamental material gaps. There are some process engineering gaps.
Yeah.
That's okay, because we know where the gaps are and we're working on the gaps. I think one of the things that we have to do is keep demonstrating that we're working on the gaps. And that's what we're trying to do by advancing these projects like hydrogen, like carbon capture, like talking about how do you provide low carbon power to data centers, recognizing that we don't want to slow down data centers, because data centers is yet another example of the ability to do more work.
Right.
I mean, the AI and all this advanced computation is actually going to help us solve the problem.
Absolutely.
Because you'll be able to do modeling faster. You'll be able to test materials on a computer instead of having to build all these apparatus. So we got to do all that. We just got to keep coming up with solutions where we can continue to build these data centers and lower the emissions and keep working towards those problems. So I think it's just reminding people that we get the problem statement. We got to work towards it. It is solvable. It's not solvable today. The IEA has that report that says only 3 of 50 plus technologies are on track.
Yeah.
Okay, that means we've identified the technologies. That's step 1.
Right.
Okay, we're not on track. Okay, but we're tracking if we're on track.
Yeah.
And we know what we need to do to get these on track. And now we need to move towards that.
Okay, and to continue off of that, we've identified the technologies. Now we have to see if we're on track.
Right.
What would be like one energy policy if you could just like snap your fingers, let's do it? What would it be?
It's a great question, and it's sort of intuitive once I describe it, but that is really understanding what the emissions intensity is of a product.
Yeah.
And lowering that intensity target or intensity specification as technology becomes available. Well, that kind of makes sense.
Yep.
Why aren't we doing that? Because you need an accounting framework to underpin it. The problem is CO2 is a calculation, not a measurement. And so you need to be able to, how do you calculate the CO2 so that you can actually understand what the CO2 per ton of steel is?
Right.
Or what the CO2 per watt is if you're in power, or CO2 per data search.
Right.
Right. You want to get an intensity where CO2 is your numerator and your denominator is the activity that you're trying to do. That would really help.
So just to be clear, there's not an accounting framework in place right now.
So there are accounting frameworks.
Okay.
Okay. What we need is a unified accounting framework such that you can...
A universal language.
A universal language. And what are we talking about here? We're talking about something that can work at the company level, the country level, and the product level. So it all adds up to the same number.
Right. Okay.
Right. Kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. We know how much CO2 is in the atmosphere. We know how much CO2 is coming from the energy sector. Let's add up to that number.
I see.
Okay. So if you can add up to, we don't have that today.
Wow. Okay.
Today we are double counting. We're triple counting. My emissions become your emissions, but I don't take them off of my books. They're on your books. They're on my books. They're on the third book. They're on fifth books. It actually just keeps adding.
Okay.
So we're coming back and saying, well, let's keep this a little bit more simple. Follow the CO2 molecule as it goes through the economy. Assign it to the products as the products move to the economy. So now you know the CO2 per ton of steel. The steel becomes the door. That becomes CO2 per door. The door becomes a car. That's CO2 per car.
Yeah.
And you can actually try, this is called activity-based accounting. So what we're looking for is something like activity-based emissions accounting. If you can get that accounting framework, you can then set your intensity standard as it is today.
Sure.
Because the reality is there is an intensity out there for everything. We just don't know. We don't actually calculate it. Once you have that, you can then start saying, okay, well, as technology improves, I can bring those down. We've done that. We've done that with most recently with sulfur in fuels. We've done that with lead in paint. We've done that in other things. These are all intensity standards. Whenever you hear somebody say, this is my ppm, parts per million is an intensity. So again, it's out there. We got to bring these dots in.
Yeah.
We got to get people to understand why this is the right way to go. And then we got to start marching down that road. But I think the more you can account to where material balances.
Sure.
And you can get to where you have these intensity specifications, you actually have a technology. Now it's just best technology wins. I want to execute this activity with the lowest emissions intensity. I want steel.
Yeah.
I want a car. I want to go from point A to point B. I want the jacket I'm wearing, whatever. All these things have a CO2 per X. And the more we can move in that direction, the better we are. There's a lot more discussion around this these days. I think it's a missing piece of the puzzle. And I think the more we can move towards an accounting framework that allows you to do intensity standards of the products, understand what a company's true contributions are, what their direct emissions are to a process. Because remember, a product moves from company to company to company. And this is called activity-based accounting in financial sector. So learning from the financial sector to now apply it to emissions. And now it's activity-based emissions accounting.
And that just feels like one of those things that you were referring to earlier where like you look back and it's obvious, right?
Yes.
But it's one of those things also that as you go along, you forget to account for it. And there's that story, this might be apocryphal, but you know, the architect builds the library.
Right.
And then he forgets to account for the books.
Yeah.
And the weight of the books, right, sinks the library into the concrete. And this feels like one of those moments where it's like, we forgot to account for the books.
It sounds like an obvious thing that the math has to work.
Right.
And I agree with you, because if you think about financial accounting, that's not even 100 years old.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, everybody thinks it's been around forever because man has been transacting forever.
Right.
But US GAAP, which is kind of the underpinning of the financial system, is a 1930s element.
Wow.
Right? Less than 100 years. It's going to be one of these things again, right? If we could get into our fast forward machine, get that DeLorean out, okay, with the Mr. Fusion and get that flux capacitor going. And if we could go 50 years into the future, I think that's what I think we'll have. We'll have an accounting framework. We'll have intensity specifications. We'll have technologies deployed. We're going to say, and we were part of it in the beginning. So it's a pretty exciting time to be in energy. It's a pretty exciting time to really drive towards solutions implementation with incredible humility. This is such a hard problem that we just got to keep reminding everyone that there isn't a single answer. There's not a 10-word soundbite that's going to say, that's what we need to do.
Right.
Okay. It is everything we just talked about. And I love the accounting discussion because we just put that whole financial sector into this and said, you got to have accountants, right? But now it's the CO2 molecule. So you need chemistry meets accounting. And the more we can move in that direction, bringing everybody together, saying everybody's got a role, I think I continue to be optimistic.
Data centers, of course, are not new, but the scale at which they are wanting power is certainly new and very intense. And this is a sector that's not used to these long lead times and long wait and permitting times and things that energy sector is very used to. So what do you find that data centers and these companies or hyperscalers generally are interested in? What do they want? Why do they want it? And are their expectations being met?
The want is pretty simple. I want energy.
Power.
I want energy. I want energy. The secondary want, which is also equally important, is I want energy with lower emissions. What I want is to meet the market need. And it's the market that wants the data center. The market wants to do the search. The market wants to speed decision making. The data center is saying, I can do that for you, right? So there's a market pull. The data guys, those companies are saying, actually, I have a solution, okay? But I need a fuel to run my machine. I need power. The power guys are saying, well, okay, I need a fuel to make my power. That's when they kind of look at us. And now you got everybody working together. And so it's just a different value chain. It's a new value chain, and it's a value chain that requires this type of collaboration. And so I think what's good is we're learning how to collaborate faster. So all the people are coming together faster, and they're trying to understand, well, how do I get power remember the key here is it's got to be continuous. Can't be intermittent. So how do I get that power? How do I take steps day one to lower my emissions versus my choices? If your choice is coal versus gas, okay, well, let's make the step one choice, gas. Okay. The step two thing is, what do I do with the emissions from the gas? Well, I need to do CCS. Okay. So I think it's imagining that value chain, recognizing where you are today, but understanding where you want to go.
You need a path to clean.
And making you go further. And that's why, we're working with them, trying to understand what their needs are, what the scales, what the timing is needed. And say, okay, how do we get there? We provide the molecules and the processes to make the power. The power then goes to the data center. And I think what's encouraging here is the level of discussion. Where do you cite these things? How do you get the policies? How do you get the infrastructure? How do you get the permits? How do you get all that type of stuff to do that end-to-end solution? Here's a classic case, though, where everybody said, we got to solve this. So who needs to be in the room? Let's get the right people in the room. Play your position. But recognizing that if we're not all working together and moving at the same speed, we're not going to get where we want to go. And so it comes back to the themes of this discussion, which is collaboration, innovation, new value chains. Don't be stuck with today's paradigm. Right? Not the whys, the why nots. And let's keep moving down that pathway as we go.
And to, further that point, don't be stuck in today's paradigm, just in the way that in 1987, some of the things that are happening today were just not on paper in 1987. They just didn't exist. And if you only exist within that framework, then you're never going to be able to push the boundary of what's next and what's possible.
I mean, just look at everybody who's listening to this or watching this probably has a thing in their pocket which can do everything. It's a phone, it's your record player, it's your calculator, it's your camera. It's all that type of stuff. And you go back into my way back machine, and I had one of those TI-30s with the loop around the belt. And I'll tell you what, I don't know, but that was to a geek, that was pretty cool.
Pretty cool stuff.
I could pull that calculator out and do a calculation. It was like a holster.
Yeah.
And so what I have in my pocket now, that contraption that we call a phone, but I probably use it as a phone less than anything else.
Right.
It's a telegraph because the text is just a telegram.
Absolutely.
It's a calculator. It's a camera. It's
Maps.
like I said, it's my record. It's my map, all that in one. Unimaginable. And yet taken for granted today. That's where we're going to be 40 years from now.
Yeah. My favorite is in one of those early Bond films. And maybe not even be an early one, but anyways, whoever Bond is at the time, he gets his watch out and he opens it up and it's a calculator.
And again, that's the beauty of imagination. Engineers take imagination and make it real. And that's what we're trying to do. Keep imagining.
Yeah.
Turn it over to us. We'll figure out how to make that imagination real. It starts with imagination. You've got to have imagination, and then you've got to have humility to recognize that when we do something, we only did it because it can be done. When we know something, we only know it because it can be known. It's easy. Instead of, all you need is collaboration. All you need is imagination. All you need is to bring it all together. We got to make sure John Lennon doesn't get too upset with me. But it really is. Yeah. And I think it's that constant optimism and humility that once you figured it out, it's obvious.
Right.
You figured it out.
It was there the whole time.
It was there the whole time.
Yeah.
But we just got to keep challenging ourselves with why can't we get there? And then when we're there, recognize that everyone around you is going to say, well, yeah, of course I knew 2 + 2 is 4.
Yeah.
Okay. But you didn't until I told you.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the beauty of the whole energy sector. We're going to keep doing that. We're going to get you to where you want to go without you knowing how you got there. And all you're going to do is say, well, it's easy. I flip the switch and light comes on.
That's right. I start my car.
And it moves.
Yeah.
I take my phone out and it works.
Yeah.
All that is underpinned by energy. And that's where we're trying to go. Einstein, one of the greatest problem solvers ever, said if I had an hour to save the world, I'd spend 59 minutes on the problem statement and 1 minute on solving it. It really is so important that we invest the time in the problem solving, in the problem statement, in understanding what the problem statement is. As engineers, that's what we do. We understand the problem. We read the problem. We reread the problem. We write down the problem. We are several steps down before we say we go solve it.
Yeah.
This isn't, I've got the solution, go find the problem. This is understand the problem and then go get the solution. And I think, the great innovators have always started with that. What's the problem?
Yeah.
Why can't I get to the moon? That's the problem. The criticality is the more you can define the problem, the more discrete you can make the problem, the higher the probability is you succeed. And I think that's what engineers do. Engineers solve problems. The energy sector solves problems. And so every time anybody throws something at me, I boomerang it back and say, what's the problem?
Right.
What is the problem? They say, well, here's the answer. I say, I don't know what the answer is, but if I know what the problem is, I got a much higher probability of getting to the right answer. So invest the time in the problem statement. Invest the time in making sure you and your teams and everybody involved in the solving of the problem actually spends a disproportionate amount of time in the definition of the problem. And while it does make, it used to frustrate me as an undergrad, right? Why am I reading this? Why am I rereading this? Why is it making me write down a problem? Okay. No, actually that discipline is critical. And it's kind of the essence of the scientific methodology, which is what's the problem? What's your hypothesis? Call it a null hypothesis. Go get the data, prove the hypothesis good. Hypothesis not right. Change the hypothesis and you go back. And that kind of learning cycle is what underpins pretty much everything we do. And
I think, it, like you just said, it is recursive and that's okay. And language is recursive, development is recursive. Right. And so our communal discipline for that has to also be recursive. Infinity
has a recursive element to it, right? Because you're never done learning.
Yeah.
You're never done knowing. You're never done.
Yeah.
And we're going to run this as hard as we can run it. But I know there's a group behind us waiting for the baton.
Right.
And they're going to take it and they're going to run faster and they're going to run harder. And the beat goes on. And after 140 years, I look at what our company has done in the development of energy solutions. I look at what we are doing today, and I can't imagine 20, 30 years from now when these things are at scale. And I think we just need to continue to move in that direction.
Well, Vijay, I really want to thank you for making the time to be here today and talk to us about this incredibly important challenge for our generation.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for joining us this episode of Lightbulb Moments, brought to you by Mitsubishi Power. You can keep the conversation going by following us on LinkedIn and subscribing to our YouTube channel. We'll see you next time.